When I first came to this country in 2013, I was walking on the street and I saw an elder lady and I said, "Hey, how you doing? You okay?" She gave me a look. I was just like, "What did I say wrong?" And then I was with my cousins, like, "Bro, you don't do that over here." It's like, "What do you mean I don't do that over here? If I don't do that in Saint Lucia, I'll get slapped by my elders. Like, why are you not saying hello to your elders?" But they're like, "Nah, you don't do that over here." It's very, very crazy. So yeah, completely different cup of tea.
Welcome to another episode of the I Love Monday podcast. Today we have property investor all the way from the Caribbean, Evans Willie. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Zaid. I appreciate you inviting me. It's a pleasure to finally be here. So thank you again.
So what are you doing now?
So what I'm doing now, I'm sitting on your sofa having a podcast. But I mean, what I do in property, I invest in property. I do developments, buy houses, convert them to HMOs. I'm doing a big development flip in Fulham right now. But my passion is obviously coaching and training people. So I've got a property training company, and I've also got a sales training company. That's my passions, and that's what I find myself doing a lot these days.
Why is that your passion?
It's a very good question. I mean, obviously I started off doing property, but obviously I got trained by a few different individuals, and obviously I find myself being some kind of inspiration to other individuals, which is obviously very good. Obviously, as me getting started from nothing, I feel indebted to help people. So I started doing that, and it's obviously, the feeling I got from doing that. I just never got a feeling before. So I just thought, that's what I'm meant to be doing. Around the same time, I listened to a guy named Steve Harvey, and Steve Harvey was saying that everybody is born with a gift, and he said the gift is obviously what you do the best and the least amount of effort. And at the time I'm thinking, like, what is it that I do the best? And I'm thinking, like, inspire people and teach people. So yeah, I think that was the aha moment. And yeah.
Okay, we'll go into your training and coaching a bit later on.
Yeah.
I want to know a bit more about you, where you grew up, how your childhood was.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm born and bred in Saint Lucia, in a small little island, just over 100,000 people in the Caribbean. And it was, to say it was a rough upbringing, it would be an understatement. It was very humbling. But I wouldn't change it again if I had a choice, because it really taught me how to be humble and appreciate things. So yeah, raised in a small little island, not being spoiled with obviously options and choices. And was obviously very good academic, very good sports-wise. I played football for my country, for Saint Lucia. I also did athletics, representing the country. I played cricket as well. I didn't play for the country in cricket, but I got to a good level. So I've always been sort of like a winner, doing all these sports and stuff like that. And then I came into this country in 2013. Started from scratch. Started off, doing stacking shelves. Then obviously doing sales jobs, selling vehicle parts, to start selling cars, start selling property, selling finance. So I've had multiple different sales jobs, and I then went into entrepreneurship and started doing different businesses, which was rewarding to a certain extent, but majority didn't fail overall until I just happened to stumble across property, and it was very intriguing. It just makes sense. It's always been around. It always will be around. Everybody needs it. It's just like, it's a no-brainer.
So what made your childhood a rough childhood?
What made me have a rough childhood? I would say that because I just never had a lot of options. When I say a lot of options, I mean things basic as having multiple pairs of shoes. I had one pair of shoes for school and one for everything else. Things such as not having a television in my house. Things such as not having not even a toilet. I had to go to my 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 grand aunt down the road to use the toilet. So it was very humbling, man. Very, very humbling.
When people think of Saint Lucia or Caribbean, they just think of a holiday island.
Yes.
White sand. Is it like that, or is the reality a lot deeper and a lot more difficult?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, to be fair, I think it's the same as every country, man. There's good and there's obviously there's rough, right? So I would say Saint Lucia overall as a holiday island, it's 90% good, because it's just an island surrounded by water. So every part is obviously nice beaches and stuff like that. But it is rough. People haven't got things that we have here that's, the average person has, you haven't even got that. The average Saint Lucian haven't even got a bank account, let alone have savings. But they're obviously happy because, we grow everything from scratch. We can get fish from by the sea. We can obviously get ground provisions, and we can cook food and not have much expenses. So people are very happy over there, I would say, but yet still they haven't got loads of finances.
Would you say they're happier there than this island here we're living in?
It's a funny thing. It's a funny thing that they asked that question, because somebody asked me that question just a few days ago, and I told the person exactly what I'm going to tell you now. I found I was in Saint Lucia in December just gone, and Saint Lucians are a lot more happier than English people.
Why?
I've got no idea. I've got absolutely no idea why. I think probably maybe one, because of the weather. It's hot. In the summer, everyone's happy, so maybe that's one of the reasons. And maybe the second thing is that they just appreciate what they have. I think they appreciate what they have. I think in Saint Lucia, people don't really compare themselves that much. So they look at what they have and they feel grateful for it. Whereas over here in the UK, it's almost like it's always a shop front. Always trying to put up a front, always trying to be on Instagram posting, getting this meal, getting this. It's always a comparison thing, trying to compare this one and that one. And, as you know, comparison is the thief of joy. So I think people are not happy because of the always comparing each other with each other. I think that's my opinion as to why I think.
I found this quite similar when I went to Zambia. So my dad's side of the family live in Zambia.
Okay.
And it's a third world country, but people there are a lot happier. Simply because they have the basic happiness in life.
Got you.
But again, they're not comparing, and they're not they don't care about, for example, football, sports. Their sports is fishing, horse riding. It's completely different.
Yeah.
And again, the weather makes a massive difference.
Absolutely. I think the weather definitely helps. But I think, it's a different. I mean, you walk on the street in Saint Lucia, someone's going to stop you and say hello to you. When I first came to this country in 2013, I was walking on the street and I saw an elder lady and I said, "Hey, how you doing? You okay?" She gave me a look. I was just like, "What did I say wrong?" And then I was with my cousins like, "Bro, you don't do that over here." It's like, "What do you mean I don't do that over here? If I don't do that in Saint Lucia, I'll get slapped by my elders. Like, why are you not saying hello to your elders?" But they're like, "Nah, you don't do that over here." It's just very, very crazy. So yeah, completely different cup of tea.
Yeah, it's just like that in London. When you go up north, you can say hello, how are you to people.
Yeah.
London, if someone says hello to you, just run.
Yeah, I realized that because obviously I started investing in West Yorkshire, and people over there are so warm and so friendly, But yeah, I think probably because the people that I spoke to in West Yorkshire, they're probably all immigrants. So maybe they still have this sort of like, back home culture.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's the reason. Don't know.
How did you get into the Saint Lucia football team, athletics team?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, the football team, how I got into the football team was obviously very, very, very funny. I mean, my mom never wanted me to play football. Now, I never had toys. We never had video games and phones and, so we had to play with each other to obviously have any kind of fun as a kid. So I found myself always kicking bottles around to play football. When I went to school, I started playing football at school, on my lunch breaks and stuff like that. And what happened is, the team, my school's coach, saw me, scouted me, and told me to come to train after school. And I was like, I can't come to train after school. It's like, you have to. I was like, well, I can't. Because if I come to train after school, my mom's going to know and I'm going to get a whooping. So we had to work something out where he had to obviously, offer to give me extra training. I think it was maths. He was a maths trainer / PE trainer. So we kind of like lied to my mom. So I started playing football for the school. I was doing very well because the football matches were during school time. So I played the whole season. I was the top scorer in the school's league. I got scouted to play for Saint Lucia on the 19. My mom, all of this time, my mom never knew anything. I went to football training, she never knew. So what happened was we had a tournament in Trinidad, in another island called Trinidad and Tobago. So it was so funny how it happened. We had the date we had to go. When I had the date, I went home. I packed all my bags, stuck it under the bed. Went to meet the guys. And the same time we were flying to the airport, I got the driver to stop next to my mom's house, got the whole team to come off the bus, go up the hill to my mom, and basically beg and plead my mom to let me to go to Trinidad and to play for Saint Lucia. So That actually worked. She said yes. And I don't worry, mom, I've got everything is already there. My bag is already packed. Just took it on the left. So that happened. So that's how I ended up playing for Saint Lucia. And I was always into athletics. And obviously, yeah, I just obviously got scouted to, to run for the island. And I used to do 100 meters, 200 meters, and 4x100 meters.
Did you get paid?
No, you never get paid, man. You never get paid. I mean, my brother played for Saint Lucia senior team. They travel to America and stuff. You don't get paid. And I think that's kind of that's one of the reasons why I knew that I would never stay in Saint Lucia forever, because the best footballers have got a full-time job, So it's a bit. Football is more of a passion thing over there than it is a business, should I say.
So in 2013, how old were you?
In 2013, I was, I was 22.
So when you came here, what was the dream?
So the dream was, having like the English dream, having the English dream, having the American dream when you're back home, you're going to come here and get rich.
Yeah.
Because when I was back home, everyone I saw who came from England, dressed nice, smell nice, have got money, have got rentals. I thought everybody in England was rich, until I actually came to England. Like, hold on a minute. I saw him have a nice fancy car on holiday, but he lives in someone's basement over here. And I realized most people actually go to Saint Lucia on holiday. They actually save for months, sometimes years, to go on a holiday. So very, very quickly, I realized that it's not a bed of roses like I thought it was. And that's the main reason why I was came here, because I knew I'm somebody who's ambitious, hardworking. So I knew if I come to this country, I've got an opportunity to help my family change their life around.
Did you come by yourself, or were you with family?
I came on the plane by myself. But yeah, I do have family. I did have family over here. I do have family here. I've got 2 brothers here. I've got, aunties, uncles, cousins, nephews, nieces. So yeah, a lot of my family are over here.
And did you have a selection of different countries you wanted to go to, or was it just you wanted to go?
Do you know what, man? I was always set on England. There was never another option. I mean, a lot of family and friends went to the US, but I was just always set on here because my brother was here, my auntie, my nearest family who lived abroad lived in the UK.
Okay.
My favorite auntie lived over here, so it was always a no-brainer for me.
And what was the first thing you did when you came to UK? Was it stacking shelves?
The first thing I did was working at Euro Car Parts, selling vehicle parts. Helping out in the warehouse, and then moving on to selling parts as a salesperson.
Were you living with your relatives, or were you renting out a room?
Yeah, very good question. So the first place I lived, I was renting a HMO in Surrey, and after a few months, I moved with family in Hackney, East London.
Okay, not far from here.
Not far from here, yeah.
And what were the jobs that you took?
Yeah, I took multiple different jobs. I mean, from basically the way that my life has worked is I've just basically seen people where I want to be and asked them how they got there, and that's kind of how I took my next step. So what do I mean by that? When I was working in Euro Car Parts, I saw the guys at the front desk, selling parts on the front desk, wearing a shirt and a tie, and I was like, I want to be like that. I asked them, how much money do you make? It was more than mine. Hold on a minute. So they get paid more than me, and they dress smarter. I'm like, I want to do that. So that was my goal. I got that. Then when I was working on the front counter, I saw the guys in the back who sit all day in front of a computer, and they get paid more money. And it's like, I want to do that. So I moved from the counter to selling parts, and those guys were selling parts to big garages like Quick Fit and all of these big garages. From there was a guy who obviously came in, and I saw the guy came in for a brand new Volkswagen Golf. He's got a full suit on. And I went to him, I'm like, what is it that you do? And he told me that he sells cars. I was like, cool, for who? He's like, for a main dealership, for Volkswagen. I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do next. I think I applied for almost every single dealership in the UK, and they all said no to me. I was like, man, I'm very unlucky. But I also applied for a used car sales dealership called Car Giant.
Okay.
And they called me in for an interview, and I got a job. So I got a job as a used car salesperson. Never sold cars before, but the good thing is they have a very good sort of trading system. They taught us the system, and bear in mind at the time, Car Giant had 101 salespeople. So I'm starting from level 0, man. I'm like, man, how am I going to do this? But while we were training, they've got a board, like they've got a screen similar to this, and they've got the top salespeople, how many cars they've sold, and I saw this guy at the top all the time. His name is Kobe. So I went to Kobe and I was like, bro, what is it that you do? He's like, I sell cars. I'm like, I get that, but how is it that you sell so many cars? Like, what's the secret? He was being a little bit, but anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm coming for you, man. He's like, come on, bro, everybody says that. The second month, I was the second top salesperson out of 101. And in the third month, I was number 1. And from there, me and Kobe was number 1, number 2 for quite a while. And that was very, very good. That's very fruitful. That worked very, very well. I saved money. I bought my first house. But then I had a kid around the same time, and I realized that I need to have more time to spend with him. The thing about Car Giant, I used to work 7 days a week because they open 7 days a week. So I'm working every single day. I'm making good money, but then I haven't got no time. So I was like, I want to make the same amount of money, but have more time. While I was there, I saw a guy came in. The guy used to work at Car Giant. He came in with a brand new Audi. I was like, what is it that you do? He's like, I work for Audi. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So I applied for Audi. I applied for BMW, for Mercedes, for Range Rover. They basically all said you need dealership experience. And eventually I got somebody who called me in for an interview. I'm like, hold on, I'm not going to go to the interview because I go to the interview, you won't hire me because I haven't got experience. So before I go in for the interview, can I just let you know I haven't got no experience? He's like, that's fine, we're aware of your CV, come in. And I was at Jaguar Land Rover in Park Royal, and I went there and I got the job. So I worked for Jaguar Land Rover for about 3 years. I did that. That was very, very good. But then while I was there, I met a guy who came in to buy a car, a young black guy like myself, buying a brand new Range Rover Sport Cash. And I was thinking, like, what is it that you do? My first instinct is that he's a drug dealer, but he doesn't look, talk, walk. I'm like, so nah, he's definitely not a drug dealer. So now I'm even more intrigued to know what he did. And he told me that he does property. So that was alarm bell number 1. He recommended that I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Read that book, completely changed the way that I think. And from there, I was just hunting for opportunities to make passive income. So I thought property would be a down the line thing because I haven't got money right now. But let me find opportunities where I can make passive income. So around the same time, something came up, something called network marketing, MLM. So somebody recruited me to do MLM and sell gas and electricity and mobile phone and internet, and you can get paid every single month. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I did that for a few months, then it picked up. So I left Land Rover completely. Everybody thought I was crazy because I was the top salesperson there. They're like, you have got a brand new Range Rover. You drive it every single month. Every 3 months, we change cars. It's like, why would you do that, man? But I just know I've got more to give. So I left that. I did network marketing for a few months. And after a few months, it all went to shambles. It just all crashed.
What was your thinking like before you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
My thinking was just basically what my family and especially what my grand uncle told me. Because when I came to this country, my first family member I lived with was my grand uncle, and he was saying to me that I need to work very hard. I need to work extra time, overtime, because the more you work, the more money you make. So that was my thinking. I used to work 2 jobs. I never used to have 1 job. I used to have 1 job, but also do like security as a bouncer, part-time. I always had 2 jobs. So that was my thinking. I knew I was going to get rich, but I thought I was going to get rich by working very, 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 very hard in jobs. And I just realized like I can't work more hours because there's only 24 in a day. I can't get paid more. So I was like, what do I do? So that was my thinking. My thinking was just work very hard, long hours, and I'll get paid more money. But then that just, came to a standstill.
So what was you thinking after reading the book?
After reading the book, I understand, the way that he broke it down and said, people who are rich, they don't work for money. They have money work for them. I was like, how do you do that? Like, I was very, I just felt alive again. I felt the same way like when I first came in 2015. Like, man, it's a new opportunity. I can really do this. So, yeah, it really gave me life. And it really gave me hope and belief that I can really make this happen, man.
How quickly did you realize that the British dream is way harder than people expect it to be?
The first day I landed here, I was like, man, this is crazy. I was speaking to, obviously I moved into a HMO and then I had the bill. I have to pay. Basically, it was a living landlord, and the living landlord obviously charged the rent, but then we have to pay more money for council tax and television tax. And I'm thinking like, sorry, what is this? I don't understand what this is. I can remember having this conversation like council tax. I was like, what does that mean? I'm not part of a council. What are you talking about? They just said you basically have to obviously pay council tax if you live in the house. It's like, wow, that's not the same in Saint Lucia. So I was like, wow. I was like, television tax. What's that about, sir? He's like, have you got a television? I'm like, no, but I'm going to buy one today. So, well, if you're going to buy a television, you need to pay television tax. I was like, it's my television. Why do I have to pay tax on it? So it was a massive eye-opener right there and then. And I was like, wow, man, this hair is completely different to Saint Lucia. You can't just see on your bum over here and survive. In Saint Lucia, you can do that. But here, you can't. So from that day, I realized that this is completely a different cup of tea to what I actually thought it was.
Yeah, here we tax on everything, absolutely everything.
It's crazy, man. Absolutely crazy.
One of my friends came back from Tanzania recently. He said there's no council tax. There's not even a water bill. All there is there's an electric bill. That's it.
It's crazy.
But here, council tax, VAT, PAYE tax, dividend tax, corporation tax, import duty tax, fuel tax. There's so many different taxes.
It's crazy. And it's like the more money you make, what I realized very, very quickly is the more money I made in my job is the more taxes that I pay. And I was like, I can't believe that. Before I read this book, I honestly did not think there was a way out. I think like this dream that I have is going to be buried on the bills and that's it, But when working at Land Rover was a very eye-opener because I saw people coming in that look like me, talk like me, very similar to me, coming to buy cars for 100,000. I'm like, there's no way you can have a job like me. And it's like, nah, you have to be doing something different. So I think that gave me a new sigh of relief that, there is hope.
After you've done your network
network
marketing
yeah.
and it came crashing down.
Yeah.
How did it come crashing down?
Well, basically, what I realized with network marketing very, very quickly, and when you get into it, that's never sold to you, right? What I realized in network marketing is that my success is not dependent on me. I need a team. I need to recruit people. I need to teach them, right? But the thing is, I can't control people. I can't control what they do. I can't control if they're going to get customers. I can't control if they're going to get business partners. For me, I can bet my whole life on me. Yeah. I've done that my entire life. But betting on people that haven't got the same sort of drive as me. So that's what happened. Most of the people I had, they obviously quit the network marketing company and joined another one. I call those people network marketing junkies from one network marketing company to another. So that's kind of like what happened with my one.
And what year was this?
That was 2019? 2018, 2019, yeah.
Just before COVID?
Yeah.
And then how did you survive that?
Well, you see, the good thing for me is when I left Land Rover, obviously the boss, pretty much begged me to obviously stay because I was making very good money as a car salesperson. But I was like, you know what, guys, I appreciate everything you've done for me, but I'm going to go out there, I'm going to really get rich, and I'm going to come back here and buy a car. Because I said that, I couldn't go back to them and be like, please, can you hire me again? I mean, I had too much pride. My pride was killing me. I thought of it so many times to go back and get my job, but I just couldn't. So I then resort to doing different businesses. And eventually, I actually went back to them and asked for my job back, and they did hire me, but something happened and it didn't go through. I was like, you know what? That's a sign, man. God believes in me, And that's what happened. I never went back. Just tried different businesses. I was a car sourcer, so I used to find people cars that they want because I've got connections who work in dealerships, get them a discount on it, and I obviously get a fee from them and also from the dealership. So that was one of my businesses. I had a clothing line and a printing company. I was printing on clothes. I still have that business, but I don't really do it. Yes, I just did different businesses.
What made you do the printing?
It was just somebody I was speaking to, and he said to me that he wants to do his own clothing line. And at the time, most young black guys like myself wanted to either be a rapper or have their own clothing line. Or even if they wanted to be a rapper, they still wanted their own clothing line. So I thought, what if I buy all the machines and I can print for their clothing line for them, I can get paid of everybody who wanted to, have their own clothing line. So that was my initial idea of starting a business.
I see. And then when did you first get into property?
I first got into property in 2020. In 2020, during lockdown, when lockdown hit, I used to work in sales. I used to work in finance, selling finance, and I got made redundant. It's very strange because there was furlough at the time.
Yeah.
My boss claimed furlough for me.
Oh,
He
no way.
fired me, and he kept pocketing my furlough. So I felt like a bum, man. I felt like what am I gonna do, man? Like everything I've tried since I came to this country is failing. But my partner obviously fell in love with a TV program called Selling Sunset, and she started binging on it. And then I started to obviously do the same thing as her. And I was just intrigued, like how can these girls make so much money by selling houses? And I was like, I want to sell houses as well. So then I applied for a job as an estate agent around the same time. And only one person called me in for an interview, and I got a job as an estate agent. I did that for 3 months, and that was very, very good. But what really made me get into property, investing into property itself, is the good thing is I work for a very small estate agency in the Slough area. So dominated by Asian people, very nice people. But there's a few people, one individual in particular, he came in one day with a bunch of keys, man. He has about 9 or 10 properties in the Slough area. And I was speaking to him and he couldn't really understand what I was saying. He didn't even speak English. And I was like, how is it this young man can't even speak English? How is he's got 9 properties? That gave me belief because before that, I actually thought I couldn't do property. Because whenever I tried to look at property events or videos, it was elderly white people, very sort of like eloquent, posh people who were doing property. And I'm like, I'm not like you. I'm a young black guy from the Caribbean. Like, I came from nothing. I'm not like you. Does that make sense? But when I saw these people coming in, that Asian man in particular, I was like, wow, he's been in this country, I can tell, not long, because he still can't speak English. And he's got 9 properties. That gave me belief, like, you know what, I can do this. And then I obviously saw a black African guy. He used to come and he rented about 12 properties from us. And he was doing the rent-to-rent model. And I was thinking, like, how does this guy have got money to rent 12 properties? So me and him became friends, and he told me about the rent-to-rent strategy. And I was just intrigued from day dot, as you know what, that really made me know that I can do it, just working at that estate agents. So after 3 months, I left it, and I just started to, do property full time, going to different trainings. And in the end, I realized, you know what it is, I actually do need to pay somebody to learn the A to Z, which is obviously what I did. And then the rest is history.
You paid a trainer?
Yes.
And then you've also come in a video with Samuel Leeds.
Correct.
So what was that about? So at that time, I was watching the beginning of the video. You had 23 quid in your account.
Yeah. So that was obviously a very rough time for me, man. It was a very rough time for me. Man. I did some of Samuel's training. But at the same time, he had a show called The Eviction that I applied to be on. There, got shortlisted. I was selected, and the winner of The Eviction got to do a financial freedom challenge with Samuel, which is the video that you've seen. So I went through that whole process, and I ended up winning the eviction. And as the winner, I got to do that 7-day challenge with him.
So I haven't finished the video. So
you need to watch it, man. It's amazing.
So did you become financially free in 7 days?
I did become financially free in 7 days.
So how did you do it? What was it day by day?
Yeah, so it was probably one of the most intense weeks, in my life, because it was like constant work. But how we did it, we obviously got a few rent-to-rents. We got 3 rent-to-rents within that week, cash flowing about £2,400, if I'm not mistaken. And at the time, we've got very little expenses. It was only about £1,000 was my expenses. So I was making about £2,400 from property coming in. So that's basically how it happened.
One thing I must say, watching that video, is although you only had £23 in your account, you were very, very optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the video, right? Sometimes it's obviously very, very easily misconstrued, right? There was £23 in my account at the time, which is correct. But I did already invest in training. Does that make sense? So even if there was no law of money in my bank account, there was a law of knowledge in my head. Because I already knew a lot of the things that I was obviously doing. Does that make sense? So the whole point of the video is to show people you don't need to have loads of money to do property, but as long as you have the knowledge, it will obviously compensate for the lack of money.
So, you know, for the 3 rent-to-rents you got, where did the initial deposits and initial rents come from?
Yeah, so we did some deal sourcing as well. So we sourced some deals to obviously fund them. So we found a lot more than 3 rent-to-rents. You know, take them on, sell them to investors, use the money to obviously fund the rent-to-rent.
Okay. And then at the end of the 7 days,
Yeah.
what was your cash flow? Was it the 2,400?
No, well, obviously
You're not renting all the rooms.
Yeah, at the end of 7 days, it wasn't cash flow in 2,400 because I had to get the tenants and stuff. But I already acquired the property. It was just a matter of just getting it set up and then getting the tenants. Does that make sense? So that was it.
And then from there, have you been doing property full time?
Yeah. From that week, we made £10,000 packaging and selling deals in that week. And from since then, I've never worked for anybody. You know, I've been making a lot more than £10,000 in some months, and that's been over 3 years now. Yeah, we're now in 2023, so it's been 3 years now.
And where were you living in that video?
So I was living in Ealing, West London, with my partner at the time, Ellen, who was not my wife.
And it was just congratulations.
No worries, thank you.
And it was just like a single room or something you were living in, isn't it?
Yeah, so we were living in a single room because it was just her room. That's what she's been living her whole life. And then, you know, we happened to be together. And I had a house, obviously, when I first met her, but obviously me and my ex, we broke up. So I left the house. Left the house with my ex. So even if I was living in the room, I still owned the house.
Yeah.
I was a homeowner, but I just left it for her. And we lived in the room together.
And then you had a dream or a vision to live in a nice apartment or a nice house in London.
Yeah.
Did you manage that? So you managed to move out?
Yeah, I've been living in Canary Wharf since 2020. Since December 2020, I've been living in Canary Wharf. So yeah, it wasn't even a dream. It was a vision. It was a vision that I put into a vision board, and it's now been my reality for the last 3 years.
And then when did you start your training and sales?
Well, I started doing property training just in January this year.
Okay.
And I didn't plan to get into property training. It was just like I was helping so many people, and they were getting results. And people are like, Evans, you know, you're doing people a disservice by not offering, you know, more help and more support. Because I think it's different when you've genuinely started from scratch, and you've obviously worked your way up. You can definitely help somebody who's started from scratch to work their way up. So yeah, I've been doing that. I'm in the sales training. I've been doing sales my whole life, but I never actually trained people on it. But what happened is while I'm doing the property training, I realized that I need to train those people sales because almost every part of property requires sales. Whatever you're going to do in property, we're going to do rent to rents, you need to be able to sell to the landlord, sell to the agent. If you're going to have your own estate agency, you have to sell to the landlords to get the property off them. You have to sell in every part of property. So I found myself doing a lot of sales training while I'm teaching individuals property. So I was like, why don't I just teach people sales? Because there are other individuals who need to learn about sales who's not in property. So that's
what kind of sales tips can you give us today?
What kind of sales tips I can give you? I mean, what is it that you want to know?
Anything.
You see,
a newbie who comes in, he wants to learn about selling cars. What kind of tips would you give them?
What I would tell them is one very good tip in sales is the investigating part. I think if you get very good at investigating what people want, the closing them part becomes very easy. Because all you have to do is listen to them, give them what they're asking you for. And that's one of the biggest issues with most people who sell. They want to sell you this water. They'll tell you how good the water is. And this is an amazing water or whatever it is. But maybe you don't drink water. Maybe you only drink soda. So it might be a great water, but it's not a good product for them. Does that make sense? But if you investigate people and ask them what is it that they're looking for, find out why they want it, find the pain point or find the gain, why they want to get this product, it makes it easier to sell. Because you're now giving them something that they need as opposed to something that you want to sell them. Does that make sense?
It's the active listening.
Of course, 100%. It's investigating, listen. Because if you listen, you actually hear what people want. They will tell you what they want.
So your property training, you said before you were helping people anyway.
Yeah.
What kind of deals did you help people on?
So mainly rent-to-rent and deal sourcing. That's how I got started. That's my first, 2 strategies. And over the last sort of like 18 months, I've been doing a lot of BRRs. I've been doing BRRs and flips. So I'm now teaching individuals to do that as well, alongside list options. I'm now doing that with developments. So I'm now, everything that I'm doing in property, I'm teaching them. I'm not teaching anything that I haven't done or I'm not doing, if that makes sense. Do
you feel qualified, even though you've been doing these things for about 3 years, to be able to train new people in, or train people in? Because some people say that you can't just do a deal and then start training people. You need a vast amount of experience.
Yeah, I do agree with that to a certain extent. I do think you need experience when things goes well. You also need experience when things goes wrong. But I don't think, a time frame, is a qualification to be a teacher. Because I know an individual who has got, last time I spoke to him, he had about 120 properties. A very successful individual. But he could never train somebody. Does that make sense?
Why not?
Because training somebody is a skill. Being able to make something difficult sound simple is a skill. Does that make sense? The same way when you look at football, you look at some of the best football players, it doesn't mean that they will turn out to be the best coaches. Pele, Maradona, they were the best footballers. They're very qualified footballers. But are they the best coaches? Look at Jose Mourinho. What football team he played for? Was he ever a best footballer? Look at Pep Guardiola. They're the best managers, but were they ever the best footballers? Does that make sense? You look at people like Graham Potter, all these young new coaches. They're very good coaches, but they've never been great footballers.
Yeah.
It's a skill that you obviously learn. Some people have got the skill of being able to teach people, and some people haven't got the skill. Some people have got so much qualifications, they've got loads of properties, but they can't teach somebody how to do it because they haven't got the right energy, the right enthusiasm, and they haven't got the skill to make something simple, something difficult sound simple. So that's what I think it is. I think it's a combination of definitely, have done it to teach somebody. It doesn't mean that everybody who's obviously got one deal can be a teacher. I think it's actually a skill, and some people have got that skill, some people haven't got that skill.
I think it's also about, like you said, making things seem easy, even though it's difficult, but it's the ability to break it down. And then also, for example, if you've done 10 rent-to-rent deals, you can get someone from 0 to 10.
Yeah.
And then if they want to scale up, they can go to someone who's
absolutely 100%. 100%. I mean, everybody now that you walk on the street, they're all walking, but who taught them to walk? There's no specialist walker who taught them how to walk. It's like somebody who walked before is teaching them how to walk, So it's the same thing like obviously property. And I think you are right. If you've obviously got 10 deals, you can show somebody how to get 10 deals. If they want to get more, then they will need to go to somebody else above you. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. I agree with that as well.
What's been like your proudest achievement so far? Because you've had quite a journey from Saint Lucia.
Yeah.
Then here you said you were stacking shelves, you were selling cars, selling car parts.
Yeah.
Your network marketing went crashing down.
Yeah. Yeah, very good question. I think, man, there's so many achievements that I've had over the year, especially in the last 3 years. I think for the last I've been there for 10 years. 7 years has just been me putting the work and not seeing the results. But in the last 3 years, I've been getting the results on a very high scale. I think my biggest achievement is obviously, my son. My son was also one of the main reasons why I got into property. I was speaking to him one day and I was asking him, when you grow up, where do you want to be? And he told me he wants to be a dentist like his dad. Sorry, like his uncle. And I was like, you want to be a dentist like your uncle? For me, it was a little bit of not a little bit to be fair, it was a big stab under my stomach because I think like my own son does not want to be like me. Every dad's goal is to be a role model to their son, and my own son does not want to be like me. I feel like, what am I doing wrong? But I quickly realized the reason why he wanted to be like his uncle, because he made very good money as a dentist, and was buying him nice stuff, bringing him on holiday. And I've realized, what it is? I have to become somebody to inspire him so he can be like me.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that got me robbed me of any excuse why I couldn't get started. And fast forward, a few years, I'm doing property now. I asked him the other day, what do you want to be? And it's very clear as to what he wants to be. Like, I want to be a property investor like my dad, because now he sees I've got an amazing apartment, I've got a Range Rover, I'm buying all this stuff. He's very impressed and he wants to be like me. So I think that for me is my biggest achievement, that I can be able to turn the tables and my son wants to be like me now.
How old is your son?
My son is 8 years old.
So at a young age, do you teach him about property, or is it just things that he's observing?
Yeah, I teach my son everything. I have my son, he doesn't live with me. I've got him every 2 weeks. But whenever I've got him, like I had him on the weekend, I bring him to viewings with me. I bring him to get new tenants with me. When I have events, I make sure he comes and he sits at the front stage and he sees me inspiring, training people. So I've realized very, very quickly that your kids don't do what you tell them to do. They do what they see you do. So rather than me tell him what to do, he now sees what I'm doing, and that's why he wants to do it. So,
why is that really important to you?
Well, I mean, I look at my family tree, and there's not one person in my family tree that I can point and say he's successful and he's this and he's that. Now, growing up in Saint Lucia, they were friends I had, very good friends of mine. I would say life was a lot easier for them, But life was easier for them because their dad or their granddad paved the way for them years ago. They did something. They started a business. They bought property. They did something different. So their life became easier. Now, I'm not saying I want my son to have an easy life, because I think if I had an easy life, I wouldn't be the person I am today, right? So I am grateful I had a very rough life, but the average person is not like me. The average person haven't got the resilience to go through rejections and go through all of the racism, everything I've been through. So I think it's important for my family and for people around me, not only to have a better start in life, but I think to give them the inspiration that it doesn't matter what cards you are dealt, is how you play your hand is what's going to determine whether you're going to win the game of life. So I think that's why it's so important that I become the best version of myself, to inspire them as to what they can be.
They say difficult times create strong men.
Absolutely.
And that's what's happened to you. You've had the rough time.
Yeah.
But you've overcome it, and now you're thriving upon still having the base and the foundation of that humble childhood that you had.
Absolutely, 100%. I think I had a very rough upbringing, and I think I am very grateful for that. I'm very grateful because I never had it easy. That's why I appreciate everything. That's why I'm so humble. That's why I don't think I'm better than anybody, because I know where I came from, if that makes sense.
So what kind of things are you doing to create that generational wealth, to pave the way? Because I'm assuming you're not 100% there yet.
Yeah.
In terms of paving the way for your son.
Yeah.
What kind of things are you doing to ensure that your son has a much better life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people would say, they want to get loads of properties and leave it behind for my son. I do have a few properties, and I am buying, quite a few as we speak. But that's not my plan to pave the way for him. I think paving the way for him is leaving what I know in him, not for him, if that makes any sense. So my goal is to teach him everything that I know, give him that knowledge, because without that, it doesn't matter if I give him a £10 million portfolio, it's going to just blow it out of the water and not know what to do with it. So my goal is to teach him what I'm doing, which I am. Now everything that he wants from me, I give it to him, but he has to work for it. The other day he wanted obviously some money to buy a brand new game, and I got him to, create a stand outside his house near the traffic light, sell water and soda, and he made £10 profit. But that £10 profit, I spoke to him yesterday, he still haven't spent it yet. But if I gave him that £10, he would have spent it already. The reason why he haven't spent it, because he know how hard sitting in the sun all day to get that £10 feels like. So I think that those small little lessons are what makes the difference, and that's my goal, to leave the knowledge in him.
That's going back to the rich dad, poor dad. When in the book they give them 10 cents an hour to work, just for them to understand the value of that 10 cents an hour.
Yeah, 100%. That book it's been, sometimes you read something, it goes through when it comes out for the other, but later on, a few months or a few years, you're like, oh, that's what this means. So yeah, this book has been, a complete revelation to me. I think for people getting started off or want to get started in property, I would definitely recommend, reading books. But this book in particular is a game changer.
I think not just property. I think for anything in business, it's a really good book, because it's all about making your money work for you.
Yeah, 100%. I think, to be fair, this book was the first book that I've read outside of going to school and being, it was mandatory to read certain books. Voluntarily, this was the first book that I've read. And since then, I've read over 20 books.
Oh.
Because I really just when I got that sort of endorphin hits from that book, I was like, wow, man, let me learn about this book. Let me read about this book. And I've read so many books that just really shaped me into the person I am today. The person I am today is a big difference to the person I was 5 years ago. So that book has been a massive game changer for me.
I want to speak about your social media.
Yeah.
Because you've documented a lot of what you've been doing over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Mainly on your Instagram.
Yeah.
And bits on YouTube, I think, as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the reason behind that?
I think I'm a very open book. I'm a very open book. Anybody obviously knows me, speaks to me, will just tell him, he tells it as it is. I think right now in property, I think there's a lot of people trying to put on the front to become something, trying to pretend it's something that they're not. I'm just not like that. I just obviously just show people what I'm doing every single day. And, some people will take inspiration and they will get started and they will have success, like some of my students. So my goal is just to show people and inspire people. I'm just here to show people, not to impress people, but to impress upon them. If someone like me who came to the Caribbean in 10 years can obviously, came from nothing and build a property portfolio that's over £1 million with no money, it's like, what excuse do you have, kind of thing. So I think that's one of the reasons, man, just to help people, inspire people, and show them they can do it as well. As long as they can just cut off every excuse that they have, they can actually win.
It's a mindset thing, isn't it?
200%. So it's 200%. I was speaking to somebody the other day. I think I posted a video on my Instagram and YouTube saying that everything in your life is your fault. Your bank account, the numbers in there is your fault. When you step on the scale, the numbers on there is your fault, right? Now, I can't talk about obviously scale because obviously I'm not the most, but it is the truth. When I step on the scale this morning, the numbers on there is my fault. It's my fault. I'm obviously so heavy, So I was it was sort of like an awareness video. Some people obviously DM me saying, "Oh, well, it's easy for you to say, you haven't got a disability." Somebody said about how the parents obviously was just gave them up for adoption and they have got no idea. Now, here's what I'm trying to say, right? I'm not saying those things are not major setbacks in life. They are major setbacks, I wasn't given up for adoption. My parents loved me dearly, so I don't know exactly how that feels, so I can't really comment on it, right? But what I did tell that person is, I've studied people who are successful, people who are extremely successful that I've watched. They have had some kind of very bad or tough upbringing. I look at people like Oprah Winfrey. She was raped twice. One time by an uncle. She was fired from television, but she still became one of the first African American documented billionaires. So how is somebody who got raped twice as a teenager, how come they came from there to here? Well, it's the fire in the belly. It's some of the things that happened to her that's made her to become that person. So what I told that person is I understand that you've had a very tough upbringing, but that should be fire. That should be fuel for your fire. One of the reasons why I'm sitting here speaking to you is because of so much of the tough upbringing that I've had that's got me to here. So that's what I would say, man.
I think with everything, you can look at it in a positive way and you can look at it in a negative way. If you're going to look at it in a negative way, it will drag you down.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
if it creates that fire in you, then it will push you further and push you towards your vision and your dreams and where you want to be rather than holding you back.
Of course, you're correct. It's all about perception and how you look at things. Somebody might say this bottle and say, "Oh, he's got half a bottle of empty water." Somebody might say he's got half a bottle of full water. They're both correct, but one person chooses to focus on what's not there, and some choose to focus on what is there. It's all about perception. It's got a lot to do with mindset. I think that's 50-60% of getting there.
Do you train mindset?
I actually don't. I wouldn't say I've got a specific mindset training, but I think if all of my trainings I do involve mindset in it, because I do believe it's got a lot to do with it. Does that make sense? Mindset is a funny subject because everybody knows that about mindset. It knows about power, positive thinking. They know about affirmation. Almost everybody knows about it, but not many people actually teach it, actually do it. So I don't teach it per se, but in property, in sales, I do teach it because you do have to understand. It's down to how you think.
No, you have to, especially in sales or anything you do. You can't go into, for example, if someone comes into Jaguar, you can't go in there, well, he's not going to buy that car anyway. Your whole body language would make the customer just go to someone else.
Yeah. I mean, I used to see it so many times with my colleagues. They used to come in, watch the person, watch the age, watch the color of the skin, and be like, nah, he just wants a test drive. Now, to be fair, sometimes they are correct.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're not correct, And that's why I treat everybody, the same. Everybody who come in, I treat them exactly the same. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. If you think that they won't, you may manifest that into fruition. So that's why I treat everybody the same. No one, I don't treat anybody different. Whether they have money, they haven't got money. Because somebody who has got money and somebody who hasn't got money, there's not much difference. Probably just a year or 2 years difference. Just like me. You know what? I was stacking shelves a few years ago. I was working as a bouncer. All kind of tough jobs I did it. But I'm the same person now. What's the difference? I've got the opportunity and I've capitalized on it. That's basically it. So I don't think I'm better than anybody. Neither do I think anybody's better than me. I think I treat everybody the same.
I think also it's important to understand that everyone's on a different journey in their life.
Yeah.
So someone can be 22 and they know rent to rent's like the back of their mind, so they're cash flowing 5, 6, 10 grand. Someone can be 40 and they're being a nurse or a teacher and they realize that that's not going to pay the bills anymore because we're in a cost of living crisis. So they're starting their journey from 40 years old.
Yeah.
So everyone has a different journey.
Absolutely.
And it's how their whole life has shaped them.
Absolutely. 100%. Everybody's different. I think, you're not doing any good to somebody, or to yourself, should I say, by comparing yourself to somebody else. Because you've got no idea what they had to do to get to where they go. You've got no idea what price they had to pay to get there. And as you said, everybody's got they have different start dates. Everybody's got different start dates in life. I think definitely everybody's got different start dates.
And like you said, sometimes it depends on if anyone's paved their way for them. So you'd hope that your son, as soon as he's 16, 17, 18, he's doing what you are doing at 30, 32, 33.
Correct.
So he would have 15 years on you.
Absolutely.
That's because you've created that path for him.
Of course. Yeah, of course. 100. I mean, listen, man, not only did I know half people who were successful in my life, but there's no one ever taught me about, you need to have a business, you can be an entrepreneur, you can learn these skills, you need to learn sales. This is a valuable part of business. No one really taught me those things. Does that make sense? So when I say, people having a head start on me, it doesn't mean financially they've got, but head start on me because they're aware of certain things and they know certain things. Like my son understands, he knows assets, he knows liabilities, he knows about property, he knows about passive income. He's only 8 years old. I was 18, I didn't even know that. Does that make sense? So, big difference.
If there was one piece of advice you could give to Evans before he's boarding the plane to come to UK in 2013, what would you say to him? If you're sitting there right next to you in the terminal, what are you saying to him?
I mean, it's a very good question that you asked. It's a very good question, and I think what I would say to myself then is forget all of the different jobs that I did. Right? I would tell myself, you know what it is, Evans. Save money. Pay somebody who's efficient and they know everything about property. Get that knowledge and use that knowledge to build your wealth. If I had the knowledge I have now, 10 years ago when I first came to this country, I would be in a completely different world financially, right? Because in property, I mean, I say it all the time, right? You don't actually need a lot of money to the property. You just need the knowledge. You need the know-how. And the know-how, if you apply it, you're going to get the results and it's going to bring in credibility, but you need the knowledge first. So if I was thinking to myself 10 years ago, that's exactly what I would have done.
In property, you have to get the deal first. Once you get the deal, then you can decide what to do. If you have funding line behind you,
Yeah.
where there's a few investors or whatever,
Yeah.
you can utilize that. If you don't have the funding line, but you know how to package it,
Yeah.
sell it to an investor.
Of course.
But as long as you have the know-how of the deal,
Yeah.
that's the first and most important thing. Everything else will come after. And if you can't sell it or you can't do funding, then you have to network, or your network isn't great.
Yeah. 100%. Look, I spoken to somebody the other day. It's like, oh, Evans, it's easy for you because you have investors, and I was like, are you all right? Did you see how I got started? I didn't even have any. What do you do by investors, right? You know, some of the investors I have now are people that I knew before property, right? This is crazy. But then it's like, how does now those people have got £300,000 that they're going to give to me to invest in property? Why would they not give me that money before? I'll tell you why. Because I wasn't investable. No, if people have got money, they will not invest it with somebody who is a bit of a risk for them. They want to know 100% that you know what you're doing. Does that make sense? So because I obviously invested in myself and I got the knowledge and I applied myself, they can see, number one, I've got knowledge, but number two, they can see I've got credibility because I've done it before. So now when it comes to investing with me, it's a no-brainer. It's a very little risk. Does that make sense? But if you don't know what you're doing, why would somebody invest in you? Why would somebody bet on you if you haven't bet on yourself? You know, so that's why I would say, as long as you get the knowledge, you find the deals, everything else comes after that. You can sell the deal, you can joint venture of the deal. If you can't find someone to sell the deal to, if you can't find someone to joint venture the deal to, give the deal to somebody. Give the deal to somebody and then document them. Get a testimonial from them. Use that testimonial as credibility to now be able to get another joint venture partner or to sell a deal. There's no excuse.
Social proof is very important to prove that you've done the deal, getting that testimonial, and then proving it with the numbers is much more important than people think. It's not just about having the deal.
Yeah.
It's about people, like you said, having confidence in yourself.
Of course.
To be able to actually carry out what you've said. Because it's easy to say, okay, cool, let's do a BRR. If your numbers don't stack up, that's a problem.
Of course. 100%. 100%. And that's why you need to know what you're doing for your numbers to stack up. If you don't know, you can be like, oh, it's a great house, got potential, but...
How does it have potential? What if you can't get planning?
But if you can't get planning, 100%. Somebody was trying to sell a deal with me the other day, like, oh yeah, I've got this house here, it's got massive land in the back, and you can build 2 houses. Great. I mean, has it got planning? No. How do you can build 2 houses? Well,
STPP, that's what it's
yeah. It's like, that doesn't mean anything, because it's a 50-50 chance, sometimes even 80-20 chance.
You can say you can build 20 flats in the back,
Exactly.
subject to planning.
Subject to planning. But that subject never actually happens. Does that make sense? So it's about having the knowledge to be like, cool, man, right now, this is the house, this is the numbers. You may be able to get planning, but I can't. That's a completely different convo. But to sell the deal based on you can build houses when you haven't got planning, it's like...
If someone has no money
Yeah.
and they want to get into property, what's your tip that you're giving them?
If they haven't got money, I say it all the time. If you haven't got money, make sure you get as much knowledge as possible.
How?
Now, well, there's multiple different ways. Number one, you can obviously go to loads of free events. I have free events. I run them every month. I give any question somebody asks me about property, I answer it. I don't hold anything back and be like, hey, when you pay for my advance rate, I'll tell them everything that they want to know. I've got nothing to hide. I'm a completely open book, right? So if you want to learn, come to one of my free events. There's loads of other events you can go to. You don't need to have money to add value to somebody. Maybe there's something that you can do. You've got an estate agency, you've got knowledge. Maybe they can come and work for you for free. You know, come and work for you for free. If you say no, come bombard you, wash your car. There's things you can do to people to add value.
Yeah.
So maybe add value to somebody in exchange for knowledge. It's all about adding value to people. Does that make sense? Almost everybody who does property maybe needs a videographer. Being a videographer. There has to be something. Everybody wants something. Everybody's got something in their life that they wouldn't mind having. Find out what they want, give it to them, and in exchange, give them something else.
Actually, you know what? If there's a kid who comes in and says, I'll record you all day,
yeah,
or record the team all day, we'll happily take that.
Exactly. That's huge value to them. I'm still chopping and changing videographers. So if somebody comes to me, and offers to be my videographer for free and do all this stuff, and in exchange, I teach them property. I teach people anyway, so it's no skin off my back. There has to be something. And also as well, I honestly don't believe there's nobody who's got money. I don't think anybody can honestly tell me they haven't got money, because it's not hard to get money. It's not hard. If you genuinely if you genuinely want something, right, you can find money to get it. I'm sure there's something you have in your house that you don't use, that's valuable. You can sell it. You know, you can go to car boot sales on Saturdays and Sundays. Get stuff for £1, £2, £3. Sell it on eBay for £20. Do that 10 times, you have £1,000. It's like, it's not hard to actually make money, but people obviously use money as a reason why they can't get started in things, and I think that's one of the biggest issues with people.
Yeah, it goes back to people's relationship with money and how they see money.
Yeah.
Because if you find something difficult to acquire, again, it's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Your brain is going to tell you it's difficult.
Yeah.
If you say, like you said, go to a car boot sale, put it on eBay, put it on Amazon.
Yeah.
I used to do that when I was younger, but it's doable, and it's probably still doable now.
Exactly.
Then it creates a different kind of mindset. Say, yes, I can do it. And often, a lot of people just need the first sale. And as soon as they see that first £1 hit the bank account, it's like, yes, it can be done.
Yeah, 100%. No one can tell me they haven't got money. I got started with no money, bro. I borrowed money. Like, you can't tell me you haven't got money. It just shows and tells me that you're not hungry enough. You might not have the money in your bank account, I understand that. But if you really want something, you can find a way to get the money. Do you agree with that?
No, you can. I think when you look into your network, it's easy to find the money, whether it's borrowing from people, or, like you said, car boot sale, find out a deal source, go work for an estate agent and say commission only.
Yeah.
I'll take someone.
Of course.
Because I'm not paying them unless they make me
Exactly.
money.
You can go work for almost any business, work commission only and make money. How can you tell me you can't make money? It just tells me that you're a lazy person, you know, and if you're lazy, it's hard to become successful.
Before we finish, we'll have a quick fire round. Favorite food?
Favorite food, I would say rice and peas and curry mutton.
Favorite holiday destination? You can't say Saint Lucia.
I can't say Saint Lucia. Oh man, I want to say Saint Lucia. I would say Spain. I like Spain.
Whereabouts?
I've been to Marbella, I've been to Malaga, I've been to Ibiza. So I like almost everywhere in Spain, to be fair, that I've been there.
Favorite book? And you can't say Rich Dad Poor Dad.
I can't say Rich Dad Poor Dad. I would say Bounce.
Okay.
Book by Bounce, where it really it breaks down that anybody can become anything that they want to do, but they have to give it 10,000 hours to become a professional. So that's a very powerful book.
Favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show? Can I say sports? Can I say cricket? Does that count? Is that not a TV show?
If you like watching cricket.
I love cricket. I watch cricket all the time.
You're watching the Ashes.
Yeah, I watch and I play cricket every weekend as well.
Sundays or
Saturdays.
Saturdays, the bigger leagues, no?
Yeah, Saturday I play for a team in the Oxfordshire League. I'm the captain, so I'm a good all-rounder. I scored 44 runs on Saturday. I missed out on the 50, but you know.
Your favorite cricket player?
Favorite cricket player, I would say. You mean present, or you mean past?
Either.
I love Brian Lara. I think Brian Lara has changed cricket for the Caribbean and for the West Indies. So
he's the OG, isn't it?
He's OG, man. Classy batsman.
There used to be a game, Brian Lara cricket.
Okay.
So
yes.
Back in like 1999 or 2000.
I've played that game, man. I'm a big cricket fanatic.
So who's your best current player?
I would say Ben Stokes.
Okay.
I like Ben Stokes. He's just he doesn't respect anybody. He believes that he can win everybody. He can take on any bowler. His passion for cricket is just phenomenal.
He's recovered quite well from when he got hit in the T20 final.
In the T20 final, I think. Yeah, of course. And I'm saying to you, that's a real. You have to be a real man to get bashed for like 4, 5, 6 years in the last over of a T20 final, and to recover from that, you have to be a very strong person. So that's why I rate it, man. And
your favorite day of the week?
Favorite day of the week? Monday.
Yeah, there you go.
I love Monday.
Evan, thank you very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
No problem at all. I appreciate you having me. Thank you again.